At the edge of the world, there are places where the sun barely rises above the horizon in winter, where the wind can burn your face with cold in just a few minutes, where the temperature drops to -40, and with the wind it can feel like -60. And yet people live here. They are called the Inuit, the people of the Arctic who managed to turn the cold from an enemy into a part of everyday life. Their lands lie at the very top of the planet, in Canada, Greenland, Alaska, and Chukotka. Today there are about 180,000 Inuit in the world. Around 70,000 live in Canada, about 50,000 in Greenland, another 50,000 in Alaska, and fewer than 2,000 in Chukotka. These are some of the harshest places on Earth. In winter, the temperature often drops to -30 or -40 degrees. Powerful Arctic winds make the cold far more severe, turning an ordinary freeze into something truly dangerous. Summer is short and cold, and even on the warmest days, the air rarely rises above 5 degrees Celsius. The ground remains locked in permafrost almost all year long. Trees are almost non-existent here, and snowstorms can begin even in the middle of July. For several months, the polar night takes over, when the sun never rises above the horizon. Then, in summer, the opposite happens. The sun doesn't set for weeks, bathing the endless tundra in a pale northern light. In conditions like these, every human action has to be carefully thought out. Mistakes are expensive here. And yet, among ice and wind, the Inuit built a unique civilization over centuries. They understood one simple rule of the Arctic. You cannot defeat nature here. You can only understand it. Instead of fighting it, they learned to read its signs, the direction of the wind, the texture of the snow, the behavior of animals. Over time, this knowledge became part of everyday life. One of the most famous Inuit inventions is the snow house known as the igloo. At first, it sounds almost impossible. How can a house made of snow protect you from the cold? But snow is actually an excellent insulator. Blocks of packed snow are stacked in a spiral, forming a strong dome. Inside, the temperature can rise to around freezing or even slightly above, even if it's -50 outside. The main source of heat and light inside was a stone lamp called a kulik. It burned seal oil. The lamp lit the shelter, dried clothes, and slowly filled the igloo with a soft warmth. In a world of ice and wind, a single lamp like this could keep an entire family alive. The entrance to an igloo was built as a narrow snow tunnel, so cold air couldn't easily flow inside. Sleeping areas were placed higher than the floor because warm air rises. Even a simple animal skin could become a surprisingly warm blanket in these conditions. But igloos were mainly used during winter. When the snow began to melt, the Inuit moved into other types of shelters. In summer, they set up tents called tupik, made from walrus or caribou skins. In spring and fall, they often used semi-underground homes called karmak, built from stones, moss, and animal bones. Each type of shelter was carefully designed for a particular season. Clothing was crafted with the same level of precision. It was made from the skins of seals, foxes, and caribou. Inner layers were worn with the fur facing inward to trap body heat, while outer layers had the fur facing outward so the wind would slide across the surface. For travel over sea ice and wet snow, seal skin was especially useful because it resisted water. Hoods were often trimmed with fox or wolf fur. The long, thick hair helped break the wind and protected the face from frostbite. Women wore special parkas with large hoods that allowed them to carry an infant inside. The mother's body heat kept the baby warm and shielded it from the freezing wind. Boots were made from seal skin, with socks of caribou fur worn inside. This combination allowed people to walk across the ice for hours while still keeping their feet warm. To cut and prepare hides, Inuit women used a distinctive curved knife called an igloo. Its shape made it possible to slice through skins quickly and precisely. Inuit life was completely connected to nature. They knew when the sea would offer seals, when animals began their migrations, and when it was wiser to wait out a storm. Snow was not an enemy. It was a building material. Their food culture also developed under conditions of cold and limited plant life. The main foods were seals, walrus, whales, and caribou. Arctic fish, such as char and burbot, were also common. Meat was often eaten raw, frozen, dried, or boiled, methods that preserved nutrients and required little fuel. One special food was muktuk, the skin and fat of whales. It provided enormous energy and essential vitamins. During summer, the Inuit gathered tundra berries, such as cloudberries, blueberries, and crowberries. To store food for the long winter, meat was dried in the cold wind, smoked, and sometimes fermented in underground pits where the frozen earth acted like a natural refrigerator. Travel across the Arctic relied on dog sleds and kayaks. Hunters could wait for hours beside the breathing holes of seals in the ice. Sometimes an entire hunt depended on a single accurate throw of a harpoon. Navigating the wide emptiness required deep knowledge. Inuit travelers read the wind, the shape of snowdrifts, and the stars. Their society depended heavily on cooperation. No one could survive the long Arctic winter alone. Stories from elders, traditional songs, and throat singing helped preserve knowledge and pass it on to the next generation. Today, many Inuit live in modern settlements. Their homes are built from wood and metal rather than snow. But the climate remains the same. The remoteness of Arctic regions and the high cost of fuel still make life difficult. That is why modern architects are increasingly studying Inuit traditions. For example, they examine the dome shape of the igloo, which allows strong winds to flow around a building and reduces heat loss. Some Arctic projects also use another principle long understood by the Inuit. Buildings can be protected by snowbanks or earth berms that create a natural pocket of warmer air around the structure. But the real secret of Inuit survival is not only technology. It lies in their worldview. For an Inuit hunter, a blizzard is not something to fight. When a storm begins, you don't try to push through the wind. You build an igloo, wait for the weather to pass, and continue your journey when nature becomes calm again. In a place where the cold can kill in minutes, that understanding became their greatest strength. And perhaps that is why the Inuit people have lived among the ice and wind for thousands of years.